I'm going to interrupt your discussions for a few minutes, and I'd like to get your attention to the screen here, if possible, because we'd like to talk 10. Come on, stand, have some coffee, have some cake. Please join us. We're going to talk about the PPWR and what that means for the packaging industry and for KP in particular. I'm Hendrik. I'm responsible for marketing of our rigid films in KP. Rigid films for thermoforming or form fill seal applications. Who is KP? KP is a multinational company presented very much in Europe, in the Americas, and in Australia and Asia. We have about 30 plants divided between durable and consumer packaging and food packaging. With regards to the food packaging, we have three product lines. We make flexible films for food packaging, we make rigid trays, and we make rigid sheet for thermoforming applications. And that is in particular where I want to talk about today, our rigid films for thermoforming. For rigid films, we have 7 plants. 7 plants in the world. We have 2 in the Americas, Canada and US, and we have 5 rigid sheet plants in Europe. And these rigid films are being used for either converters, for people that make trays, or for food processors that use this for form fill seal applications. Different types of foods, could be yogurts, fresh meat, processed meat, bakery products, and so on. So about the PPWR, let's get to the subject here. You know, there is a saying that in the United States they invent, in China they copy, and in Europe we regulate. And judging by the size of the PPWR, 300 pages, we're doing a very good job at that, it looks like. So the PPWR will change the packaging industry in the future. There will be a significant impact on companies like us that make packaging materials, and also the food processors and the retailers that use these packaging materials to sell the food products. And the PPWR is a complex document. It will be voted by the Parliament in January next year, and then 18 months later it will be implemented and go into effect. Now, a lot of the criteria and targets in the PPWR will have delays for the implementation, also to 2030 and 2035. And if I look at, we cannot go through all the arguments, but we'll highlight 2 or 3 of these. The first one is the need for recycled content. The PPWR clearly states what the targets are for PET, 30% recycled content, polypropylene, polyethylene, 10% recycled content in the materials by 2030. So this is very important because recycled content needs to be available in the market. And for PET there is plenty at the moment. For PP and polyethylene, this is still an issue that needs to be resolved in the coming 3 to 5 years. Another element is, in the PPWR, it prescribes that all packaging has to be recyclable. So, recyclable by design, what does that mean? It means, you know, that technically all polymers can be recycled. But can they be sorted? Can they be sorted in the post-consumption recycling stream? Is there enough value in it to do that? And the second criteria of the same concept is it needs to be recycled at scale. And that's a catch, of course, you know, because let's say for polypropylene and polyethylene, there is a big post-consumption recycling stream that's downcycled, maybe into the automotive industry. For PET, we have, of course, the bottle stream, which is being recycled post-consumption. But for other PET products, there is not a huge, a very established recycling stream yet. And that is something that KP is really working on with the recycling industry and the retailers to have a post-consumption recycling stream of used PET trays and food trays, so that our packaging can become circular in 5 to 10 years from now. Because circular packaging is eventually where everybody is working on. We need to reuse what we have produced. One last item is the eco-modulation. Eco-modulation by the nations that is required to incentivize the criteria for recycled content and for recyclability. So this means that the EPR schemes that will happen in all the countries in Europe, customers will pay less if they use material with recycled content than customers that use non-recyclable material with no recycled content. So it is really of interest to the food industry to use materials with recycled content that are recyclable. Who is all involved in this stream of recycled content? Who are the stakeholders? So we have the waste managers. Of course, they need to be able to sort all the plastic material that comes out of the yellow bin. They need to be able to recycle it in PET, PP, polyolefins, or PVC, and they need to separate it according to what the PPWR has prescribed. We have the recyclers, the packaging manufacturers like ourselves, and of course the brand owners, the retailers. And all this whole process needs to be documented by the right documentation of and audited by auditors. In the end, we have the consumer, and the consumer, of course, plays also a very important role, because they need to have really good guidelines on what to do with their plastic packaging, how to accumulate this, how to separate it in their yellow bins. And this is something that in the European Union we still have many differences between countries, and even within countries in certain counties the rules for recycling change. So today, if you are a packaging producer, you can go to 12, 13 different institutes and agencies to testify or to get a certificate on the recyclability of your materials. And of course, these agencies, do they all use the same criteria? Do they all use the same protocols? We are not sure about that. And in the end, where we need to go to is what the European Union is now identifying, to a single source that tells us how a material can be classified as recyclable. One standard for all, and have an equal playing field for all that are making packaging materials. And that will be done by the Joint Research Center and the Senelec, who by 2028 will issue the protocols on what is considered recyclable. I just wanted to give you just a flavor of what KP is, what KP's roadmap is for the PPWR. We are working very hard on recycled content. Today, in our PET materials, we have an average of 49% recycled content of all the materials that we produce in PET. So in that sense, we are already way ahead of what the European Union targets as the target in 2030. Also, we want to have, for every material, packaging material that is on the market, we want to have a recyclable alternative. Today, there are still many materials on the market for food packaging, either PVC or multi-layer materials, which are not considered recyclable. KP by next year will have an alternative that is recyclable for those materials. And of course, the last one is going back to the concept of circularity. Packaging needs to become circular. We need to reuse what we have produced. And so our tray-to-tray program is really the spearhead of our company, where we are working on over the last 10 years to include used PET food trays back into our PET packaging material. And this is called tray to tray, and as the first company in Europe, we have received a certificate from Recyclas on the use of used food trays, closing the loop of taking the post-consumer food trays back into our packaging material. KP makes a lot of different types of rigid films. All of them go back into the PET recycling stream, they should. And all of the materials that we produce are ANR and Recyclas certified on the use of post-consumer recycled content. It means that it certifies the origin, the quality, and the quantity of recycled content we put back into our materials. And I think this is important for all the food processors out there, because eventually our customers, the food processors, need to justify to the authorities how much recycled content they have used. So they need to show a certificate, which we will supply them, saying, okay, the materials that you have used from KP had in the last 6 months 59 or 48% recycled content. And this is important for them. A few examples of materials that we have made that are designed for recycling. This is a mono-seal material, which is a material aimed at facilitating the change from PET PE, when you have a polyester lined together with a polyethylene, is a material that is not considered recyclable. So food processors would like to move to a recyclable material, but would like to have the same sealing characteristics as you have with polyethylene. Polyethylene seals really well. And we have developed a mono PET that has a fantastic sealing performance similar to PE, therefore allowing customers to change with ease to a recyclable material. Another range of products are Smart Cycle. The use of recycled content, or the requirement for recycled content, is not the same in every country. In Spain, they would love to have 90% or 100% recycled content to pay less taxes. In the UK, 30% is enough. 30% is enough because that's where they avoid the taxes. So we have developed this range of products called Smart Cycle, where we go in increments in recycled content. So we can offer the customer a minimum of 35, a minimum of 50, a minimum of 80% recycled content, should they like that or should they want that. And of course, this is all then backed up by the certificates from our auditors telling our customers, okay, this material that you have used has a content of 59 or 80% recycled content, and that is then used for declaring their taxes on non-recycled content. And the last one that I'd like to explain is hot fill. It's a PET material that is temperature resistant up to 93 degrees Celsius. For those customers that use hot filling applications for yogurts, for cheese, cream cheese, jams, barbecue sauces, and so on, that are hot filled maybe at hot temperatures, and for which they currently use PVC or polystyrene based materials. And again, in the long run, these materials based on PVC and polystyrene might not be considered recyclable, so they have to move to a different polymer. And that's why we have PET hot fill that is really working at 93 degrees Celsius and being able to have the full endorsement from PetCore on its recyclability. On the stand here, you will find a few flyers on what the combinations are between our flexible films and recyclable bottom films, so that you can come up with a solution that is either 100% mono material based on PET, or a complete recyclable solution where you have the bottom and the top both being endorsed as recyclable. This was my little talk about the PPWR. I hope that you have questions. Please come to me or to one of my colleagues to ask whatever you want about recycling content. Just wanted to say that KP has been awarded the EcoVadis Gold Medal, bringing us in the top 1% of companies that work in the packaging industry on their sustainability. Thank you very much.